Everything can make a difference. You're squatting down, you went an extra inch, took you longer on that rep because you squatted down an extra inch. That extra inch means a lot. Ask any guys. Coach Greg, and today we're going to be going over a video by Jeff Nippard, and we're going to answer the question, how do you actually know if you're training hard enough? How do you know? Like, literally, how do you know? How? Well, we're going to watch the video and we're going to see. Does he explain how do you know if you're training hard enough? I already know the answer. I already do. I could say it right now, but I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to tell you at the end. So I'm looking at the thumbnail. I see Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jay Cutler, Jeff Nippard, Coach Greg, maybe Steffi Cohen. I'm not sure. Don't hate me. I don't know if it's her. And Ronnie Coleman. So I was hoping I'd end up in the video, and yes, I actually am in the video. As you know, I'm a proponent for training harder than last time, and let's see. Am I right? Is science right? Is Greg right? Am I basing my training on science? Let's just see what is going to happen. Can't wait to watch the video and tell you what you need to know.
I'd like you to take a look at this set and try to answer the question, is he training hard enough to maximize muscle growth?
And the answer to whether or not Ed Corney is training hard enough on that set to maximize gains, the answer is, it depends. It's not an automatic yes, and it's not an automatic no. It depends. If that's the only set he's doing once a week, was that hard enough to maximize gains? Nope. For a professional bodybuilder, if he was only doing one set once a week for quads, he needs to go harder than that. He would need to do forced reps, drop sets, partials. That would not be hard enough. But if he was doing 20 sets like that twice a week, it's way too much, too hard. So you can't just answer the question with a simple yes or no, because it depends on everything you're doing in your training.
This one's a bit trickier. Is Jay training hard enough to maximize growth here? Now, for a bit of context, I measured how long it took him to complete the positive, or concentric phase of each rep.
And the answer to Jeff's question, did Jay in fact train hard enough to maximize muscle growth? Did he? It depends. Was that his only set? How many sets did he do? How often did he do it? Was he overtrained? Was he recovering? Was he on PDs at the time? Was he on a PCT? Was it post-show, before a show? Was it during peak week? If all his sets look like that and he only did 5 of them a week, absolutely not. Not hard enough. If you're a beginner and that was the first day you walked in the gym, it's too hard. So it depends. You can't just say, oh, it's hard enough because the RP was 8, 9, or 10, or the reps in reserve was 1, 0, 2, -1. You can't answer the question based on a couple of numbers. It's more complicated than that. But is it really more complicated? This is how you know you're training hard enough. Did you train harder than last time? Was it harder than last time? If it was, you absolutely trained hard enough. And are you making gains? If you are making gains, you're doing it right. If you're improving, it's working. If you're not getting bigger or stronger and you're not sore, maybe you should train harder than last time. If you're like 95% of people who go to the gym, you're training like a pussy. You're not putting any effort in. You're just going through the motion, half-ass training, getting half-ass results. And then you spend all of your time on YouTube trying to find someone to validate why you're not making gains when you're training like a pussy. If my eyes are closed and you do a set, I am betting it wasn't hard enough. That you could have pushed harder, that you would have got better results if you worked harder. Will I be right for everyone? Nope. 5% of the people, they're training hard enough, maybe too hard. Those people, you need to go easier. How do you know if you're training too hard? Are you sore? Are you making gains? If you're always sore and you're not improving, you're overtraining. It's simple. Yeah, you can time how fast each of your reps is. You can do all that. But is that actually going to help? No. How do you know? How do you know you went as fast as you could on each set? You do a set of 10 bicep curls and one took 0.9 of a second and the other one took 0.95 and the other one took 1.3 seconds. How do you know you didn't just use better mind-muscle connection on that set? How do you know you didn't slow down the motion on purpose and then it felt harder? How do you know you didn't cheat a little bit on the faster rep? How do you know you didn't go to full extension? There are so many factors that can affect the speed of movement that you don't know if it's because you're fatigued or something else you don't know. So it's fun to try to use science, but science doesn't always work. Science can be too difficult for most people. Most people are not going to go in the gym with a stopwatch and time every single rep they're going to do. Most people are going to walk into the gym, be a little bit uncomfortable, be nervous that people are going to watch them lift and that they might make a mistake, and then they're going to put the weight down before it got hard. That's how most people are going to train. Oh, Coach Greg, it's not based on science. Training harder than last time means you need to progressive overload in the gym. When your muscles get used to doing something, it needs a greater stimulus to cause further adaptation. If you bench press 135 pounds for 15 reps every single day, eventually your body says, I'm good at that. I don't need to get any bigger. When that happens, you need to create a greater stimulus to incentivize the muscles to grow. Could be a heavier weight, could be increased reps, more time under tension, greater mind-muscle connection. You slow down the weight, you add a pause at the bottom, but it needs to be harder than last time. And how do you quantify if you went harder than last time? You can get out the stopwatch and time things and use all kinds of science, or you can, from within, say, did I train harder than last time? Yes or no? Did I push a little bit more? The answer is yes. Congratulate yourself. You did a good job. But if you said no, I didn't train harder today, either mentally I couldn't handle it, I wasn't in the mood that day, or physically I was tired, that's okay. You can't go harder than last time every single time you go in the gym. Can't do that in the gym, can't do it on the bike, can't do it when you're running. So what do? If you have a bad day, you do worse, you're weaker, you just don't feel it. The next time you get in the gym, you go harder than that time. Don't be upset if you do worse. You can improve every day. Do the best that you can. There are so many ways to build muscle. They all work. What really matters is that you train harder than last time, which means to progressively overload. Not every single workout. You can't get stronger forever. But every once in a while, you're going to have a good day. You are going to set a PR. Not every day, once in a while. And when you have that PR, maybe the next day you're weaker. But eventually, you're going to go harder than last time and you're going to improve. And that's how you build muscle.
Now, it's important to note that how much rep slowdown you see as you approach failure is highly individual and will be different for different exercises. Still, if the reps don't slow down at all, you're most likely not at failure yet.
If your rep speed doesn't slow down, you know you are not close to failure. But does that mean you're not training hard enough? The answer is no, it depends. If you're a beginner, you just joined the gym, you do not need to train to failure. You don't even need to train to the point where your reps slow down. But if you're an intermediate or advanced lifter and you've been training for years, you best be slowing down or you know you're not training very hard. But even still, it still depends. If you're a professional bodybuilder, you've trained for 10 years and you're only doing 3 sets for that body part, you best be going to failure and beyond. You best be doing the craziest drop set of your life. You only have 3 sets to grow as much muscle as you can. On the other hand, you're training your entire body 3 times a week, 20 sets each time. You better not go to failure. If you do, you're never going to recover. Obviously, the amount of volume you're doing has a great impact on how hard you should train. The higher the volume, the lower the intensity has to be, and the lower the volume, the higher your intensity has to be. Also, how long are you resting between sets? If you're only resting 30 seconds to a minute between sets, you can't train close to failure. You won't recover. RP maybe 5. But if you're resting 5 to 8 minutes between sets like a powerlifter, You can go a lot harder. You can go to failure because you're giving your body enough time to recover.
From other research that those final 2 reps before failure are disproportionately more fatiguing, which is not good from a recovery standpoint. Now, obviously, this does depend on the exercise.
Depending on the exercise, it's going to have a completely different overall systemic fatigue that you're going to experience. Squats and deadlifts, very fatiguing. You do 1 or 2 sets of those to failure, you're done for the day. Side laterals and face pulls, you can do plenty of sets to failure and not feel totally drained from it.
RIR stands for reps in reserve, so it's how many reps you left in the tank. Now, it's still being hotly debated just how many reps you can leave in the tank and still maximize hypertrophy.
So the $1 million question is, how many reps in the tank can you leave and still maximize muscle growth?
On the low end, some experts like Dr. Mike Zordos seem to be comfortable setting the threshold pretty low, at least in certain contexts.
So Dr. Mike Zordos thinks you can leave 5 to 7 reps in the tank and still maximize muscle growth. For a beginner, certainly not for Coach Greg. Imagine if I went to the gym and could do 5 or more reps on all my sets. That would be called, I went and warmed up.
While others like Dr. Brad Schoenfeld seem to set the bar a bit higher, having recently made recommendations in the 1 to 3 reps in reserve range, so an RPE of 7 to 9.
And Dr. Brad Schoenfeld says 1 to 3 reps in reserve to maximize hypertrophy. That makes a lot more sense. You have to train to the point of it has to be uncomfortable. It can't be easy. Imagine if all you had to do was go to the gym and go through the motions, do a bunch of warm-up sets, and you look like friggin' professional bodybuilders. If that was the case, we'd see a lot of professional bodybuilders. People at the gym all look amazing because guess what? Most people at the gym are in fact training with 5 reps in the tank. They've actually done studies on this, and most people are training with 5 or more reps in the tank. That means most people are training like pussies.
Another way to get better at this is using rep speed. One thing I think we can all benefit from doing is simply recording a set, watching it back, and observing how the rep speed changes toward the end.
And y'all know you're not smart enough to go into the gym and time your sets and use velocity loss to figure out the RP or IRR of your sets. You don't even know what those things are. You can't even guess half the time. Just freaking train hard. Go in and push harder. Unless you're already training too hard and you're sore, then train harder. It doesn't have to be so freaking complicated. When the time of the cove's over and I can go back to the gym, I can't wait to see everyone with their stopwatches being, 0.2, 0.24, 0.27 seconds. Come on, 2 more reps, 0.25. Oh, stop, you went, it took too long. Oh, stop.
And while I know some powerlifters have started using rep speed trackers in training, I think most of us should apply this research more broadly for now.
And yeah, if you're a world-class powerlifter and you're timing your rep speed, that's fine. That's world-class powerlifters. You're just going to gym to freaking make some gains. You don't need to time every single rep and see, is your rep speed slowing down? And then shut it down. Oh my goodness, I lost 30% rep speed on that rep. I got to stop. Meanwhile, you're thinking, yeah, I wasn't concentrating. A girl walked by in the background, checking her out. That's why I slowed down. See, everything can make a difference. You're squatting down, you went an extra inch, took you longer on that rep because you squatted down an extra inch. That extra inch means a lot. Ask any guys.
Okay, now let's take a look at a set that I would say is, in my opinion, too much effort.
And up next, he's going to examine Coach Greg's squat. And as you know, this was a competition between Coach Greg and Will Tennyson. Had to do the most amount of reps possible, okay? So this was a bet. So I had to go to absolute 100% effort. No more reps could be done. Had to do it. It was a competition.
Now, I know Greg's working around an injury and hasn't squatted in a while, so keep that in mind, but I did want to include this because I think it illustrates another type of set that we see very often, which is when you feel the need to push to an RPE of 10, even when it comes at a higher risk and recovery cost.
So even Coach Greg, as a professional bodybuilder who's consistently training, still can get sore from training like this. I suggest you do 10 to 20 total sets per week per body part. If you're doing your sets and they look like this, 10 at the most. But if you're a beginner or you're doing more volume, like 20 sets per week, you never need to train this hard. It depends on your experience level in the gym and how many sets a week you're doing.
And lastly, I want to look at a few examples that seem to break the rules. First, let's look at this set of deadlifts from Steffi Cohen.
After the first rep, you're thinking, yeah, she may be going to get 2 more. Maybe. And she does a set of 10. She keeps going harder than freaking last time. But she can. Even though it looks hard, she can keep grinding through the reps. So an all-out set to failure for her looks a lot harder.
Okay, here's another example of when it's hard to gauge RIR based on rep speed.
Versus someone else can be lifting the weight very slowly. They might not be screaming. They're not making a sound. They're well in control of the weight. They're going slow on the eccentric and slow on the concentric. Looks easy. Then all of a sudden, they can't do another rep. And you're thinking, oh, you didn't train hard. No, they trained really hard, but they were focused on mind-muscle connection. You can't always tell how hard someone's working just by watching them.
With all this information in mind, let's come back to this set from Jay at the beginning. Was this set hard enough to maximize muscle growth? I think yes.
And is Jay training hard enough to maximize muscle growth? Well, we can't tell from watching one single set. How do we know he doesn't train harder on different sets? How do we know he doesn't do 5 sets of this exercise for the same amount of reps? Every set gets harder than the last. We don't know. Jay is a fan of high volume training. He is going to do a lot of sets. And as you know, the more sets you do, the less intensity you need to give. So my opinion is Jay Cutler is able to make the gains because he does more volume with slightly less intensity. If he were to lower his training volume in order to make up for that, he would have to go closer to failure on the sets that he does. However, he would be resting longer. He'd be more recovered and more capable of pushing closer to failure. So as you can see, there's a lot to consider when trying to determine how hard you can train. But if you ask me, my advice is going to be the best advice. Train harder than last time. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching. Greg Doucette, IB Pro. The bloops are over there. Watch one of those. Subscribe. Click the bell button. And follow me on Instagram and to talk. I don't have just a cookbook. I have a training book as well. Don't forget to pick up the friggin' training book. It's going to be more simple than last time. Easier to make the gains. Don't forget to get the training book. And until next time, I am out.